So magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat ulit. So ito po na po yung part 2 po natin regarding po sa taxation. So last time, doon sa napag-usapan natin, so we talk about the history na kung saan nalaman natin nga na during the reign of the Egyptian pharaohs, so mayroon silang mga tax collectors na tinatawag nating scribes. And then sa Athens, so part yun siya ng Greece. Okay? So nagkakaroon sila ng tinatawag nating pag-impose ng tax during war. Okay? And this is what we call diaspora. So this is only taken from the people of Athens when they are going to a war. Okay? But nevertheless, kapag nanalo naman sila, okay, so ibabalik din yan sa kanila, okay, through the wealth that they can accumulate out of the colony that they will have. Okay? In Athens also, nagkakaroon po sila ng monthly tax din para sa mga tinatawag po nating foreigners. Okay? So yan po ay tinatawag nating mitoikon, okay? Or in other textbook, mitoikion. Okay? And then in ancient Greek, okay? So the same taxation was only used during emergency power. So as I've told you, so additional resources gained from war were used to refund tax previously collected from the people. So that is the setup that they have in Greece. Okay. So last time then, okay, napag-usapan na rin natin ito. And this is pertaining to Rome taxes. Okay. Earliest taxes in Rome. So they have this what we call portoria. Okay. This is taripa in our contemporary world. Okay, and these are actually custom duties on imports and exports. So during the time of Augustus Caesar, na kung saan ito po ang leader nila that time, after kay Julius Caesar, nephew po ito ni Julius Caesar, okay, na isa ding general ng Roman Empire. So siya po ay nag-introduce ng tinatawag po nating inheritance tax. And his purpose for this one is for the retirement funds, okay, of his military. So the tax was actually 5% on all inheritances except gifts to children and spouses. So yun po yung sa Roma. Sa Inglaterra, so taxes were first used as an emergency measure also. So taxes on income or capital were a recent development as a result of increasing government intervention in the economy. So yan po yung kahalagahan ng tax po para sa Inglaterra. So yan po ay nakakapagdulot ng tinatawag nating improvement, development sa kanilang ekonomiya. And if you're going to recall also in our previous session, so Great Britain was considered as the first industrial nation, okay, in the world, okay, before US came out and even China or Russia. So Great Britain became first as the highly industrialized nation or country. Okay, so in the Philippines, during the pre-colonial society that we have, being communitarian, and we're having this communal lands, okay, so they didn't have these taxes yet. Okay, but of course, in today's modern industrial nations, okay, so the government designates as a tax base, okay, so such as income, okay, property holdings, or a given commodity. So kahit sampung bansa, okay, they have already this tax law. So pag sinasabi po natin tax law, so it is a body of rules passed by the legislature by which the government acquires a claim on taxpayers to convey, transfer, and pay to the public authority. Okay? So, yan po ay isa sa mga tinatawag po nating inherent powers of the state. So, especially dito sa atin sa Pilipinas. So, we have this police power, okay, power of eminent domain, and of course, power of taxation. So yan po yung tatlong inherent powers of the state na kung saan dito nga, okay, na-develop yung tinatawag nating tax law, okay, especially sa power of taxation. Okay. So, take note ito dapat ay duly passed by the legislature. Okay. So yung Kongreso po natin, and then upon the approval also of the executive, the president. Okay. So kinukunan tayo ng karampatang percentage sa ating kinikita sa property po natin, sa commodities po na binibili natin. And this will be used for the so-called delivery of social services. So when we say taxation, so this is just what? Ulitin natin. It is just a process by which the sovereign, through its lawmaking body, raises revenues used to defray expenses of the government. O yung tinatawag po nating government expenditures. Okay? So in other textbook also, taxation means a means of government in increasing its revenue under the authority of law, purposely used to promote welfare and protection of its citizens. So similar. Okay? So there is this common denominator, okay, for the promotion of the welfare of the people or the protection of the people. So through the social services, of course. And aside from those two definitions, so we have also here another one. So it is the collection of the share of individual and organizational income by a government under the authority of law. Right? The same thought. So as I've told you, okay, taxation is the inherent power of the state, wherein through its government, it can impose and demand contribution upon persons, properties, or rights for the purpose of generating revenues for public purposes. So the power of taxation upon necessity and is inherent in every government or sovereignty. So present po yan kahit saang bansa. So there is really a need for countries to generate funds for them to support their respective goals, projects, programs, activities. Okay? So respectively. So depende yan sa priority ng government na meron kayo. Okay, kung saan man kayo naandoon. Okay? So sa atin dito, sa Pilipinas, so all sectors are given funds. Okay? All aspects of the development. Okay, whether that falls under the socio-cultural or economic ba yan, o politics man yan, o most likely yung culture din natin, hindi yan nawawala. Okay? So it's more on socio-political and economic, okay, aspects ang pinagtutuunan natin ng pansin. Okay? So there should be holistic approach in using the fund that we have out of the revenues collected from us. So, malaking responsibilidad din po yan para sa mga tinatawag po nating leaders natin dito. So, they have to use it properly, efficiently, and effectively so that we will enjoy also the due, okay, things that indeed must be given to us, okay, as the citizens of this country. So, meron po tayo dito ng principle and theories of taxation. So, unang-una, so yung tinatawag po nating benefit principle. So, this principle holds that individual or that individual should be taxed in proportion to the benefits they receive from the governments, and that taxes should be paid by those people who receive the direct benefit of the government programs and projects, out of the taxes paid. Okay? So kung ikaw ay nagbabayad ng taxes mo, so gagamitin din ito ng government natin. So in return, you will be benefiting also from the projects, from the programs, from the activities, okay, that the government might conduct. Or all will be conducting. So ganun dapat. So since ako nagbayad, ma-enjoy ko rin dapat kung anong binayad ko. Okay? So hindi na i-enjoy lang ni politiko yung pera natin. Okay? Kasi yung iba dyan, of course, alam na natin kung ano nangyayari in reality. Hindi rin napupunta balik sa atin. Okay? Hindi rin natin totally na-enjoy kung anong nag-contribute po natin. Okay? Kasi nga may mga kurakot din tayong mga politicians and employees and personnel. Okay? Sa iba't ibang departamento po ng gobyerno po natin. Okay? And the second one is the ability to pay principal. So this principle holds that taxes should be related to the people's income or the ability to pay, yung kakayanang magbayad. At depende po kung gaano kalaki, gaano kaliit yung kinikita. Okay? People with greater income or wealth and can afford to pay more taxes should be taxed at a higher rate than people with less wealth. True. Okay? So for example, individual income tax. Pag malaki yung sweldo mo, malaki din yung tax mo. Pag maliit yung sweldo mo, sinisweldo mo, so maliit din yan. Okay? Kukunin sa iyo. So later on, doon sa structure ng tax system natin, so isa-isahin natin yung tatlo. Okay? Para malaman natin kung ano ba yung mga pwede kahinatnan ng mga sweldo natin o yung income natin. Okay, kung saan ba tayo na-fall. Okay? And number 3, the equal distribution principle. So this principle state that the income, wealth, and transaction should be taxed at a fixed percentage. Okay, that is, people who earn more and buy more should pay more taxes, but will not pay a higher rate of taxes. Kasi nga, di ba, say for example, ako, nag-i-income ako ng 20,000. Okay, example lang yun ha. So 20,000 yung income ko. Then, pag bumili ako sa store, kung ano yung karampatang tax doon sa binili ko, yan lang yung babayaran ko. So kung bumili ngayon si milyonaryo ng the same product na binili ko, hindi po pwede nalakihan mo yung tax niya. Okay? Kundi, ganun pa rin. Kung ano yung due amount na nakapataw doon sa commodity na yon na binili ko rin. Okay? But of course, kung bibili pa siya ng marami, okay, kung ang akin ay isa lang, okay, kasi yun lang kaya ko, kung sa kanya, siya ay mayaman, so pag volume yung kinuha niya o binili niya, so babayad siya ng karampatang tax para doon sa binili niya. So ganun po. Okay? So yung tinatawag kasi nating may term tayo na ginagamit sa economics eh. Yung kapasidad mo, okay, na bumili, depende yan sa kinikita mo. Okay? Nakalimutan ko talaga yung term. So siguro mamaya, okay, nasa tip na aking dila pero hindi ko ano ngayon. Hindi ko talaga ma-recall for now. Okay, so mamaya baka masagi sa isip ko na naman yan. Okay, pasensya na. Okay. So ayun. So ito na yung structures of a tax system. Okay. So una, meron tayo dito proportional. Okay. So pag sinasabi nating a tax is proportional, ang meaning po nito ay ganito. So the government takes an amount of money from a person which is indirect proportion to his income. Take note, indirect proportion. So say for example, ako mayroon akong salary na 10,000 pesos. Okay? And the government is deducting 10% of my salary for the tax. So after a year, kung nag-increase yung income ko to 15,000 pesos, so the government now has to deduct 12% of my income for the tax. So that's when a particular tax is said to be proportional. Kaya I hope klaro po yan sa inyo. So yung pangalawa, yung sinasabi dito, a tax is regressive. So dito naman, okay, ang ibig sabihin po ng regressive na tax ay ganito. So yung government po natin, kukuha po siya ng larger percentage, okay, sa kita ng isang tao per tax, okay, while he is receiving a lower income. So ito yung hindi maganda. So say for example, si Ben, may salary siya na 10,000 pesos. And the government is asking him to pay 15%, meaning to say, 1.5 po yung kukunin dito, okay, of the salary of Ben, for which is contrary to our given example in number 1 na proportional nga po. So medyo discriminating and lugi si Ben dito pag ganito yung setup ng paniningil ng tax dito sa Pilipinas. So maraming aalma sa ganitong setup, okay, ng pagpapataw ng tax. So kaya hindi ito ginagamit dito sa Pilipinas. Okay? So itong regressive na tax. So mantakin mo 10,000 yung kinikita mo tapos papatawan ka ng 15% ng 10,000 mo. Sa tax pa lang 'yun, hindi pa kasali yung PhilHealth mo, hindi pa kasali yung pag-ibig mo. Okay? Yung iba mo pang mga premiums. So magkano na lang matitira sa iyo sa 10,000? 'Di ba? Kung ganito yung setup ng o structure ng tax natin. So that's why hindi yan siya ginagamit dito sa Pilipinas. So ang pangatlo ay tinatawag nating progressive. Okay, yung progressive. So a tax is progressive when government takes a larger percentage of his salary or tax due to his high salary. Kung mataas sahod mo, mataas din yung kukunin sa'yo. Say for example, ikaw ay kumikita ng 30,000 pesos. Okay? And the government should deduct in here 20% of that 30,000. Okay? 6,000 din yung mawawala sa'yo for your tax. So the tax amount is proportionately equal to someone's status in the society. So a rich man should pay more than a poor man. Okay? So medyo discriminative din yung dating. Okay? Pero kung yun yung kinikita mo, wala tayong magagawa. Kasi maganda yung trabaho mo. Ikaw ay anong tawag natin dyan? Highly competent professional, ika nga. Di ba? So, kaya nagkakaroon ka ng sahod na ganyan. So, yung mga politiko natin, ang laki din ng sinasahod nila eh. Okay? From the mayor, going to the congressman, senator, and vice president, president. Malaki yung sahod nila. Kaya taxable din yun. At nagbibigay din sila ng malaki-laki din out sa sinasahod po nila. Okay? So, ayan. Yung mga managers ng bank natin. Ayan. So, what are the significance of taxation? So, nasabi ko na ito sa inyo last time din. Okay, meron tayong primary purpose po dito and that is to generate funds or revenues used to defray expenses incurred by the government in promoting the general welfare of its citizenry. Now, some other purpose includes the following. Okay. To equitably contribute to the wealth of the nation. That's true. Kasi lahat naman tayo nag-aambag para dito sa pondo natin. Okay? or a calendar year through the GAA, okay, General Appropriation Act, okay, or yung annual budget po natin. Okay, and to protect new industries. Okay, so isa din yan. And to protect local producer also. So ayan. So yun yung other purposes ng taxation din. Okay. So kasi may mga umuusbong dito guys, mayroon po tayong batas na Filipino First Policy. I think that is under Quirino na time pa, na kung saan in terms of investment, so 60-40 po tayo. So 60% owned by Filipinos and 40% from outside investors po natin, mga foreign investors po natin. But of course, sa reality naman dito, nagkakaroon din ng mga dummies. Kaya yung mga big time companies natin dito o kaya yung mga foreign investors po natin. So say for example, si Mr. A, siya kunyari yung may-ari ng tinatawag nating farm lot na ito. Okay, yun yung saging, say for example. Okay, so pag nagkaroon siya ng 100 hectares, okay, na sagingan. So ang totoo niyan, hindi naman talaga siya at hindi niya kaya yon. Pero due to internal arrangement, okay, kasi kikita din siya doon sa internal arrangement na yan. So ilalagay sa kanyang pangalan, okay, and then ang totoo niyan, hindi talaga yung pera niya, kundi from a foreign investor. So yun po yung nangyayari. So ngayon, ang strategy din ng mga kano at saka yung ibang mga foreigners dito, mag-aasawa sila ng Pinay o kaya Pinoy. Okay? So, then yung sa asawa nila mapupunta yung pangalan ng i-develop nilang mga tinatawag nating beaches, okay? Yung mga recreational infrastructure dito, okay, sa Pilipinas. So, may mga kaparaanan talaga, okay, kung paano magkaroon dito ng negosyo kahit ikaw ay foreigner. Okay? Na kung saan nakaka-benefit din yung mga kapwa natin Pinoy dito out of the industries that they are putting in inside the country, of course. So, yun yung kagandahan din. Okay? And of course, dahil doon, magkakaroon ng tinatawag nating trabaho. Di ba? Kaso nga lang, of course, ang priority talaga natin dito ay yung mga Pilipino. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng 60-40, okay, na hatian. So, yun po yung ilan sa mga purpose din. Aside from the mention na natin last time. Okay. Then we have here the characteristics of tax. Okay. So number one, it is enforced contribution. So, tama po ito. So its payment is not voluntary in nature and the imposition is not dependent upon the will of the person taxed. So hindi na, ito lang yung gusto ko. Out of the 20,000 that I am having as my income, okay, ito na yung bibigay ko sa'yo. Okay, yan na yung tax ko, okay na yan. So hindi po ganun. Okay, naka-fixed po yan. Okay, nakasad po yan kung magkano. Okay, and it is generally payable in cash. Hindi po pwedeng cheque, hindi po pwedeng promissory note. O sige, sa ganito na lang kita bibigyan. Or in kind. O hindi pwede na isang sakong bigas na lang, isang sakong palay o dalawang sakong palay na lang. Hindi po pwedeng ganun. Okay? It should be in cash. So it is proportionate in character. So yan po yung ating tax dito sa Pilipinas. Proportionate. Okay? Payment of taxes should be based on the ability to pay principal. So the higher income of the taxpayer, the bigger amount of the tax being paid. So ganun po yung system. Okay? So it is also levied. Okay? Or impose or collect on person or property. So there are taxes that are imposed or levied on acts, rights, or privileges also. Say for example, yung mga documentary tax po natin. Okay? And next to that is this one. So it is levied by the state which has jurisdiction over the person or property. So last time nga sinasabi ko na ito sa inyo kung saan kayo naka-reside. So yung LGU natin, so yan yung may karapatan. Okay? Na mangolekta po. Okay, so as a general rule, only persons, properties, acts, rights over transaction within the jurisdiction of the taxing state are subject for taxation. So alam naman natin yon sa discussion natin sa una, no, sa local taxation. So may karapatan po yung probinsya natin maningil, yung city, yung municipality, at saka yung barangay po natin. Aside po sa BIR, Bureau of Internal Revenue natin dito. Okay? So yan. And it is levied by the lawmaking body of the state. So of course, this means that the prior law must be enacted first by the Congress before assessment and collection may be implemented of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Same true with the local tax ordinance po natin. There should be a local tax ordinance first prior to the imposition or collection of the said tax. Okay? So hindi po pwede na wala ka pang ordinansa, mangolekta ka na ng ganito. May kaso ka po niyan. Okay, sigurado. And it is levied for public purposes. True. Okay, taxes are imposed to support the taxes are imposed to support the government for implementation of what? Projects and programs. Okay? So very basic. So ayan. So talking about basic, okay, we have also basic principles here of a sound tax system. Okay? So unang-unang principle po dito, yung tinatawag po nating fiscal adequacy. Okay? So meaning, the resources of revenue taken as a whole should be sufficient. Sapat dapat to meet what? The expanding expenditure of the government. Okay? Regardless of business. Whether pwede yun siya na mga import taxes din, okay, trade balances or problems of economic adjustment. Okay? So, dapat matuloy-tuloy yan. Okay? Kaya ba? Most likely kasi, ang problema sa ano natin dito, sa government natin, especially sa leader po natin, nagsiset sila ng budget without the money on their hands first. So for example, pag sinabi ni Pangulong Duterte, ngayong 2022, ito yung gusto kong budget. 'Di ba? So magse-set na yan siya. So ngayon, ang pressure dyan sa BIR, sa Bureau of Customs, at saka sa mga tinatawag po nating BOCCs, o GOCCs I mean. Okay? Government-owned or controlled corporations po natin na kung saan nakaka-generate din po yan ng income for the government. Okay? So, say for example, gusto ni Pangulong Duterte ng 7 trillion pesos, okay, for next year's budget, okay, annual budget. Ngayon, si BIR, pressure na yan. Saka si Department of Finance. Okay? And most likely, ang kinakalabasan dyan, hindi nila ma-generate yun. Okay? Ng collecting agencies natin, including the GOCCs natin. So, ang nangyayari, say for example, magkakaroon lang siya ng collection na 5.8 trillion pesos. May kulang pa na 1.2 para maging 7 trillion. Ngayon, kung itutuloy yung budget na yan, ang mangyayari, uutang ngayon si Pilipinas para ma-provide niya yung tinatawag nating 7 trillion na yon. Doon tayo nagkakaroon ng utang actually. Okay? Doon tayo nagkakaroon ng utang. So most likely kasi almost all presidents ganun yung ginagawa. Okay? So hindi sila doon naka-stick sa budget na nakolekta lamang. So for example, kung 5.8 trillion pesos lang yung nakolekta ng collecting agencies natin or department, yun lang yung gugulugulin niya. Hindi ganon yung setup palagi. Okay? Digobi yan. Okay? So kaya, most likely every year, dumadagdag yung ating utang, okay, sa labas. So yan po yung setup. Yan kasi yung mindset ng mga presidente natin. Because they wanted to leave a legacy na tinatawag. Ano ba yung ginawa mo during your presidency? Ito yung sa akin, ito yung sa akin, ito sa akin. Okay, gano'n. Okay? So, kung titingnan natin, may iba pa nga diyan iniiwan lang yung ano, yung project. Tingnan niyo yung nangyari kay Pacquiao, oh. Okay? May project sa Sarangani, 'di ba? Tapos hindi hindi man lang nagamit daw. Okay? So, nakita yun ni Pastor Kibuloy, guys. Yun na naman yung ano, yun na naman yung barret niya last time kay ano, kay Senator Manny Pacquiao. Okay? So, ayan. So, fiscal adequacy. Kaya ba? Sapat ba yung kinikita ng government natin para sa gugugulin na ng government? Tama ba? Okay, tama ba yung sasabi ko? Sapat ba yung revenue na nakakolekta niya? Okay? Para sa mga programs niya, sa mga projects niya. So yun, yung tinatawag nating fiscal adequacy. Although most often yun nga yung nangyayari. So hindi talaga sapat yung nakakolekta. Pero ito ay ginagawa ng paraan through debt. Okay? So andyan yung China for soft loans, di ba? Okay? Na kung saan expert na yan sila, guys, para mag-exploit din ng mga bansa, okay, through soft loans. So equality or theoretical justice. So means the taxes levied must be based upon ability of the citizens to pay. So yun po yung proportionate. Okay? So yan po yung isa sa mga basic principle ng isang magandang tax system. Okay? So administrative feasibility. So this principle connotes, okay, that in a successful tax system, such tax should be what? Should be clear and plain to taxpayer. Alam dapat ng taxpayer may ganito tayong taxes. Okay, may IVAT, may VAT, sino exempted, okay? Magkano yung babayarin at ano yung mga halaga ng income mo na taxable at hindi taxable. Okay? So, ayan. So, may naka-state pa dito, guys, capable of enforcement by an adequate and well-trained staff of public office. So, yung ating pong respective treasury office, di ba? So, dapat may mga staff siya na ano, na very accommodating. Okay, yung sa BAR natin doon malapit sa dito sa Tacorong. So andyan malapit sa ano, public terminal. Okay? Doon na ngayon yung BIR. So dati diyan sa yung dating STI. Okay, dito sa May Santro. Okay. And then convenient as to the time and manners of payment. So andyan. Okay, and not unduly burdensome upon on discouraging business activity. So may tendency kasi na of course minsan may mga ano tayo, especially nung dumating COVID, may mga reklamo actually diyan sa BIR before. Okay? So may kumukuha ng TIN number. Actually TIN number lang 'yun issue 'yun eh. Kaya may TIN number. Okay? So kukuha yung mother ng kasama namin dito. Tapos ang daming requirement. Okay? At hindi ka nakakapasok diretso kasi nga of course may quarantine ano tayo protocol, 'di ba? O may COVID-19 protocols tayo na pina-follow. So doon lang sila, security guard lang daw pumunta din sa taas tapos babalik na naman si security guard. Okay. So yun yung ano hindi maganda. Okay. So pero naiintindihan natin yung sitwasyon kasi nga para din yan sa ano. Pero only that kung mga wala po nito, dapat accessible po ang opisina. Okay? And hindi siya discouraging kumbaga. Nang gusto mo na magbayad pero dahil sa ganitong mga setup at sa mga taong andyan na say for example, hindi approachable, hindi marunong makipag-ano, okey, makipag ano 'yan, transact, okey, sa customer nila. So minsan nakakairita din 'yan, okey. So alis ka na lang, 'di ba? Pero of course, sa ibang mga ano, kasi may mga kilala din ako diyan yung tita ko andiyan din dati nagtatrabaho, okey. So may mga ganun lang na storya before. Okay? And consistency is the next, and compatibility with economic goals. Okay? So this refers to the tax laws that should be consistent with economic goals or programs of the government. So these are the basic services intended for the masses. So most likely yung tax talaga natin na nakokolekta sa atin is really intended for what? Basic services. Right? Especially para ma-boost yung economic activities po natin. Okay? So ayan. So here are the classification of taxes. So as to the subject matter, so we have here examples. Personal or pool or capitation tax. Example natin dito is residence tax. Okay? Meron din tayong property tax. Okay? Example natin dito, real estate tax. And excise tax natin, so andyan yung RVAT po natin. Okay? So ayan. So take note, yung 1% ng real estate tax po natin o property tax po natin, mapupunta po yan sa education based doon sa nakasaad sa saligang batas po natin. Okay? So 1% of the real estate tax. Okay? So pupunta po yan doon. So as to who bears the burden, so mayroon po tayong direct tax. Example po nito ay income tax po natin. And we have also indirect tax. Okay? So kapag bumibili po tayo ng goods and services, so doon po ito pumapasok. Example natin yung RVAT po natin. Okay? And as to the determination of account-specific tax, example natin dito, taxes on wines. So yung tinatawag po nating sin tax. Okay? So mayroon po tayo dito a specific tax po para sa mga sigarilyo, ano pa man dyan. Okay? And then we have also this what we call ad valorem tax. Example natin dito, tax according to value of such real estate tax. Okay? So yan. So as to the purpose, we have general tax or special tax. Okay? So may general taxation tayo, may special taxation din tayo. And as to scope, national and local. Okay? So in general, of course, mga income tax po natin. Ang special tax po, say for example, yung mga sin tax. Okay? Yung kasi napakarami pong taxable na halos lahat halos. Okay? Pinapatawan ng tax. So, national in scope and local in scope yung klase ng tax. Depende po sa kung saan nangyari ang activity, okay, o transaction. So, ayan. So, what is the difference between tax and tool? Okay? So, sabi dito, a tax is demand of sovereignty. Okay, while tool is demanded for proprietorship. So kung gumagamit ka ng private road, kaya kung saan, so for example, ito ay minimaintain din ng government po natin, so magbabayad ka ng toll fee. Okay? Pero yung tax, that is duly levied by the sovereign state. So a tax is paid for the use of the government's property, while a toll is paid for the use of another's property. So ayan po yung kaibahan. And a tax may be imposed by the government only while a tool is enforced by the government or private individual or entity. Depende po kung sino may-ari, sino nag-develop, sino nag-maintain. Okay? So, pwedeng government, okay, mapupunta yung bayad mo or sa private individuals or private entity. Okay? At ano naman yung kaibahan ng tax sa penalty? So, sabi dito, a tax is intended to raise revenue. Yan po yung main na purpose niya. While penalty is designed to regulate conduct. Kung ikaw ay naka-violate ng batas o rules and regulation, say for example, sa traffic natin, okay? So papatawan ka po ng ticket dyan with corresponding fines po yan. Okay? So, ayan. So mape-penalize ka and you will have the penalty of course. Depende kung saang setup, okay? Saang institution nga o establishment ka naka violate. ng tinatawag po nating rules and regulations or law natin. So a tax may be imposed by the government only while a penalty may be imposed by the government or a private property. Okay? So, yung government, okay, yung private individuals guys, kayang mag-impose ng penalty. Depende po kung may basihan po yan. Okay? Kung walang basihan, kotong na po yun. Okay? Pangungurakot na rin yan. Okay? So, yun yung other side of the coin. Okay. Okay lang naman ma-penalize ka so long as may basihan. Okay? Kahit na magka-fine ka, so long as alam mo na ikaw ay nakalabag ng isang rule, okay, o batas. Okay lang 'yan. Okay? So, ano naman kaibahan ng tax kaysa sa utang o debt? Okay? So, a tax is based on law while debt is based on contract. So, nagbabayad din ba ng utang yung Pilipinas, sir? Oo. Okay? Sa interest. And then sa panahon ni Duterte ngayon, sabi niya, malaki-laki na rin yung nabawas ng principal amount ng utang natin. Kaya medyo mababa na daw yung utang natin. Kaya as to the figure, I'm not yet certain kung magkano. Okay? So, pero yun yung pinagmamayabang ni Harry Roque. Okay? The Secretary Roque. So, a tax may not be assignable while a debt is assignable. Okay? Kasi lahat po yan, hindi ka pwedeng maano dito. Ang tawag natin dyan, pag ang tax ay pinapatos sa mga ganito, so kasali ka dyan. Okay? Pero yung utang guys, of course, kung sino ng utang, siya magbabayad. Depende kung ikaw ay, anong tawag natin dyan? Yung kapag ka mangutang ka, mayroon kang kasama. Nakalimutan ko yung term. Kasi nangyari na yan dito guys eh. So yung kawawa, yung kumaker niya. Okay? Kawawa yung kumaker. So kasi hindi na siya mahagilap. Tapos ang naka-signature doon na co-maker andito. So siya ngayon sinisingil. Okay? So ayan. So a person may be, a tax is generally payable in cash while debt is payable or in cash or in kind. So depende po yan sa setup na meron kayo. Pag say for example, wala ka ng pambayad talaga, wala ka ng cash. So pwede naman yung TV mo, pwede naman yung aircon mo, pwede naman yung washing machine mo kapag ka utang. Pero yung tax, never po. That should be in cash. Okay? And a person may be imprisoned for a non-payment of taxes, but any person may not be imprisoned for non-payment of debt. Yan yung pinaka importante na malaman ninyo. Pag nangutang kayo guys, unless hindi siya na-fall sa estafa na kaso, pag nangutang kayo, hindi kayo makukulong. Okay? So for example, 5,000, hindi ka makukulong yan. Okay? Hindi ka po makukulong. Okay? So pero pag na-fall na siya sa estafa, okay, lagot ka na. Paalala na pag ang case na ano sa'yo is syndicated estafa pa. Okay? So, automatic. May lalagyan ka. Okay? So, what is the difference between tax and terms? Okay? And distinguish from other terms, I mean. Okay? So, tax distinguish from other terms. So, ano yung kaibahan ng tax kaysa sa revenue? Ano yung kaibahan ng tax kaysa sa internal revenue and custom duties? So, pag sinasabi natin revenue ulit, so natalakay na natin ito sa previous natin na lesson. So, this refers to the fund, okay, or income derived by the government, whether from tax or any other source in another sense. So while internal revenue is referred to what? To taxes imposed by the legislature other than duties on imports and exports. So yung custom duties naman, ito po yung taxes imposed on goods exported into a country. Okay? So taripa. Ayan. Custom duties po yan. Export and import. Okay, pag internal revenue, okay, BIR. So, ano-ano yung mga entities na exempted from taxation? So, ito po yung mga sumusunod. So, we have the religious institutions. Yan. charitable institutions, non-profit, non-stock educational institutions na kung saan ang school natin ay isa sa example nito. So, yung charitable institution, kagaya ng Kalinga, okay? Religious institutions natin, like doon sa school po namin, okay? And mga personages, mga mosque, okay? Ayan. And non-profit cemeteries, isa din yun. Government institutions. So kung City Hall po natin, non-taxable po yan. Mga barangay hall natin, basta government institution siya. So non-taxable po yan. Okay, exempted po sila. And foreign diplomats. So, sila po ay exempted. And then yung senior citizen natin, so exempted na rin po sila sa pagbibigay ng personal income tax. Okay, so meron na rin silang 20% na discount sa mga commodities na sa goods and services na bibilhin nila. So yun po. Then mayroon pa yung nakasama doon yung sa may dalawa pa tayo na hindi na mention, ano? Yung pag nag-open ka ng account sa labas, okay? So hindi ko maalala yung term, pero may ganun eh. May dalawa pa yan. So ubus ata yung ubus. Okay, at saka yung bus ba yun? Bus at saka ubus. Okay? So ayan. So pag sinasabi natin situs of taxation, so situs means what? Okay, situation or location or place. Kung saan nangyari yung tax transaction. Okay? So in short, its literal meaning refers to a place of taxation. So in real property, the rule is tax imposed to be a place or state where the property is located and subject to the tax as a jurisdiction over the said property. So yun yung sinasabi ko na last time sa inyo. Pag sa Tacorong ka bumili ng property, dito mapupunta yung tax na yan kaysa Tacorong. Okay? So ayan. So ito na yung last natin. So forms of escape from taxation. So yung form of escape from taxation po natin ay ang mga sumusunod, 6 po ito. So we have shifting. Okay? Paano ba ito nangyayari? So it is one way of passing the burden of tax from one person to another. So example natin dito, taxes paid by the manufacturer may be shifted to the consumer by adding the amount of the tax paid to price of the product. So yan na yung nangyayari ngayon. Okay? So yung ballpen dati na tig 4-5, di ba? Ngayon, nasa 8. Okay? Depende po sa sa brand. Okay, meron ng ballpen na umabot ng 700. Okay? Okay? May ballpen po na umabot ng 700. Yung parang pirma po ng mga elite. Okay? So naka-receive ako niyan nung graduate ako. Pero hindi ko naman nagamit. Parang ordinary na ballpen lang din. And then we have also capitalization. So this refers to the reduction in the price of the tax object to the capitalized value of future taxes which the purchaser expect to be called upon to pay. So sa example natin dito, real estate. Okay? So yung internal arrangement na sinasabi ko. So from 1.5 million okay, na price ng property, gawin na lang nilang 1.2 or 1 million na lang. So ngayon, ibig sabihin yung babayaran ngayon ng buyer mas liliit na. Okay? Kasi ang nakalagay lang doon is 1 million or kaya 1.2. So meron siyang 500,000 na non-taxable na amount. Okay? So ayan. And then transformation. So this also occurs when the manufacturer or producers upon whom the tax has been imposed pays the tax and endeavor to recoup or make up for himself by improving his process of production. Okay? So, ayan. So, for example, noon, manually lang ginagawa. Okay? Then, later, tinago nila na yung mga machine na nabili nila, hindi yan naka-declare. So, yan din yung minsan nangyayari sa process ng production. So, yung dinideklara na nila ay ganito lang na number of units ng products or service yang na ano nila. Where in fact, ang realidad nun mas mataas pa. Okay? So, ayan. And tax evasion. Ito yung pinaka ano, sikat. Okay? So, it's the practice by the taxpayer through illegal or fraudulent, okay, means to defeat or lessen the amount for tax. So, tawag din dito tax dodging. Okay, marami na po tayong ano, mga involved dito na mga big time like Pacquiao, okay? Mami Junisha, Juday, 'di ba? Carmina Villaruel and yung asawa ng Zoren. Sino pa ba? Basta marami na rin mga artista at mga politiko din, okay? Mga businessmen, okay? Na kung saan umiiwas sa malaking tax. Kaya ang dinideklara lang nila yung ano. Kasi normal yun, nangyayari dyan. Kapag malapit na yung bayaran, guys, at deklarasyon ng SALN, yung ibang pera nila, guys, kinukuha yan nila sa bangko. Okay? Iniimpok nila muna sa safe nila sa bahay. Kaya hindi siya maano account. So, we need to say, pag kung ano lang yung pera nila sa bangko, at that very moment na kung saan time na po ng declaration ng SALN, yun na. So, isa din yan sa mga kaparaanan. And then tax avoidance. So, this is the exploitation by the taxpayer of legally permissible method in order to avoid or reduce tax liability. O yung tinatawag nating tax minimization. And last is tax exemption. So, ito yung pinakamaganda. Is grant of immunity or freedom from a financial charge or obligation or burden to which others are subjected. So, nabigay ko na yung example sa inyo last time. A while ago, I mean. Okay? So, kung sino-sino yung mga exempted sa tax po natin. Okay? So, yan. So, yun po yung kabuuan ng ating topic po. Okay? So, salamat po sa inyong panonood at sana nakapagbigay ako ng bagong kaalaman sa inyo. At kung mayroon kayong mga comments po o corrections dito sa ginawa kong discussion patungkol po sa concept of taxation na part 2 po ng ating lesson. So, feel free to comment. Okay? And depende po kung magla-like kayo o ano. So, depende po sa inyo. So, maraming salamat po ulit.